All right, welcome everyone. I am CCP Swift, joined with some amazing people here to talk about the Eve in 2026 and where we're going. We got CCP Rattati, CCP Burger, CCP Okami. How you guys been? It's been a minute.
It's been great. It's been a really good year. I'm doing awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, I think the last time we were all together talking about Eve in a very nerdy, fun way was just right before Catalyst was coming in. We were talking about stuff that was coming in the Catalyst expansion. And what they do with the Catalyst expansion? What did players get up to?
I mean, it's been pretty wild actually since the Catalyst expansion. Who would have thought that a mining expansion, would actually go down this well? So no, people have been very busy. We've seen plenty of rifts being
mined,
exhumed, harvested, annihilated.
Yeah.
Plenty of murdering as well happening in these rifts.
Yes,
and friendship.
Yeah.
Fleet activity around mining has gone up a lot. It's such a core activity in EVE Online. Everyone also wanted to try out the critical hits and see what it felt like, and the economy and the mining opportunities are all there. There's demand for a lot of stuff. Production is going up. There's no real bottlenecks, mostly healthy demand. So it's just like you can go out and mine and make some money. That's always a healthy indicator. But it's also a little bit more fun.
And new mining ships contributing to
Yes,
that. Like people
exactly.
are loving them, and not just for mining. I think that we found some interesting other uses for them. But it's been really cool.
And also, we're also seeing a lot of people kind of migrating back into mining from other playstyles. So that's super healthy. And it's just everything feels in a pretty good balance.
Yeah, I think when we were sitting here last year, we were talking about things like the MPI, trying to get that under control a little bit more. Things like the global Plex market were still on the timetable. New ships and stuff we were kind of teasing. If you go back to the 2025 director's letter and look for the breadcrumbs, we had a couple in there.
Yeah.
We had a plan.
Yeah. Gold Rush was the rifts. That's like we were trying to allude to it.
Yeah.
Really valuable, really exciting.
Yep.
They're being done every day. They're also quite covert. If you can get them done without anyone noticing, then you won't, no one will notice. So maybe people don't notice that they're being done, which is very interesting, kind of like stealth of night kind of mining, which is thrilling, like to get in, get out, like that fantasy. So raid style mining, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of speculation. People are still theorizing a lot, and
where they appear.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, that's the one neat bit is that when we were talking about this in Catalyst, the distribution methods for these phase fields and stuff, we're saying it's going to be a little bit different. So players are still trying to figure that out. I love it when players still have like a need to don some tinfoil to figure out exactly how these things work.
Actually, I heard wearing a tinfoil hat might help you find them better. So just putting that
Also
pro tip out there. Yeah.
Stick with like the.
But Okami, do you wear like a tinfoil beard?
I do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I kind of scoop up the beard.
No, I think it's just been generally super well received, and the lasting impact of this expansion is just has to be seen to be believed. If you look at the PCO numbers, you look at the activity number, like everything is being done. Exploration sites, all aspects of the game are in a very stable and kind of healthy place. Meta is in a pretty good place, but like nothing's perfect. But this is probably the healthiest the game has been in over a decade.
But we've got major updates coming out as well that will help with the meta, right? Like I think the meta is always an ongoing thing. It's never done.
It's never solved,
Yeah.
and it should never be solved. And I think that was a huge moment when we kind of accepted it ourselves, that like there isn't any perfect balance in the game. It should be, it needs to evolve, it needs to move, and we kind of play with it in a way.
But we have the CSM here also, so they can drill us with all of the little issues that are happening, whether a ship here or there or too overpowered. We had a session yesterday. There's another today about ship balance. So like we'll be flexible also on that in the major update. Maybe cram something in that like came out of the CSM conversations.
Yeah.
But we're not meeting them for the first time. They are in our Slack channels anyway. So like these are not like, we don't need the CSM visit to get these good ideas.
Yeah, and the community are really good at this as well, where they're like, oh, I really like this thing, or I really wish that we could do more with blank. I know last year we were talking a lot about dreadnoughts and just the prices around them, the build cost, and we were talking about last year driving the price down a little bit to see what that happens. And the players went crazy with dreads. Like if you look in LoSec, there was, I think, the period of a week over the summer where there was a trillion isk dread fight or dread brawl. And then a day later, another one, like 2 jumps over. And then a day later, another one. I don't know how these guys were just getting dreads. It's bonkers.
And these are T and Navy dreads.
Yeah, T1 dreads, but a lot of Navy dreads, a lot of Zernitras as well. The Triglavians, they like their dreads.
Yeah, this is the careful, balancing that we want to do ongoing in both the expansions and the major updates. That shifting meta, I really think like the economy often is absolutely in the player's hands, but we have to tend to that to make sure that it feels right. Like I think if things feel out of line, then people aren't having fun. They're not building the ships and flying the ships that they want to be flying and fighting in, and that's what these updates are for. And I'm really happy to see how they're landing.
Yeah, the December MER came out, and I know the players were analyzing it, and they could see how much like production was increasing based on like the new influx of materials from all these people mining. And they know that like what lags just a little bit after that is destruction. So that's going to be exciting to watch that one spike too. The unexpected or the very expected like destruction.
Yeah.
But also the control items that we added into the game to be able to more carefully tune individual costs is now really paying off, because now we've tuned battleships to be the right price, if you will. But we have now the ability to tune Navy cruisers or whatever, faction cruiser, whatever you want. We have way more flexibility and tuning tools rather than just like more titanium, less titanium, which was the old system. So that investment is paying off, and it really gives us more precise control. And also, we have been keeping like a really close eye on the mineral faucets and really just reacting to figure out, is it Zydrine? Is it Mexalon? Is it whatever it is it healthy that it's not being mined, or is it a lack of like availability? Just like it doesn't exist. And we're able to tune this and kind of add a little bit more here and there. But then obviously the new reprocessing of
errata cores
adds
a whole new way to kind of help solve some of those issues. Yeah.
And I feel like we haven't really, like, the meta hasn't really set in erratic cores yet. So I think
No, not yet. And they haven't needed to be used to solve a problem just yet. So that there may come a time, but not yet. And I think that lends to what you were saying, the speculation. But the value is still there, and it's still absolutely worth finding and fighting over and everything. But yeah, there's new tools in the ecosystem now.
And it's interesting because there is like it has kind of created an element of unknown. Like, yes, people are starting to stockpile it, but what will it end up being? Like, where will people actually where will they reprocess it? I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to see.
But not as much as we worried about.
Yeah.
We were worried about that people would just stockpile it forever, and that's just not the case. There's a lot of just straight through generation that's happening, which is very good. Like, stockpiles aren't good for the universe. It's like a little bit of hedging is fine, but it's really nice to be able to just alleviate your like production pains immediately with this kind of like, I'll just get some Zydrine or whatever the thing is that I'm missing. But you need these control items, exploration sites or whatever. That's just so that we have a healthy balance between activities also.
Yeah.
It's just like we need everyone to cooperate and trade to no one gets this kind of, what do you call it, like hold of the market or control. So it's hard to keep kind of like not being like, okay, this is like really good. Like we're in a really good place at the moment.
Yeah, for a system as complex as Eve, it feels really nice to see it in this state. And yeah, as you were saying, the players are absolutely thriving with it. It's nice to see New Eden really active. The large groups are doing stuff. The smaller groups are doing stuff. The medium groups are some of them are growing to like bigger sizes, so they're able to take on some new and creative challenges. I always love it when that happens because it introduces like this new level of chaos into the mix. Because the large alliances that have been around for some time, they know like how things should be done and stuff. And when a medium group that grows into that larger size or gets into that little ecosystem, they're like, "Hey, I'm going to try and doing it a different way. How come no one did this before?" And it's fun to see people like kind of freak out, like, "Oh, you're not supposed to do it that way,
Mm.
but it's working. Oh God!"
Yeah.
And then yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of I guess the content schedule I guess that we talk about. So this is I think the third year now that we've been doing this with two expansions a year, and between those two expansions, things that we call major updates. Can you like talk a little bit about like just what goes into a major update?
Yeah, sure. A major update should always be focused, first of all, on game balance and meta. So between expansions, like we launch an expansion, we know we're introducing a whole bunch of new stuff, but we're also introducing new problems, usually, right? Like things might be misbalanced or not quite land the way we've anticipated or simulated. And this is a good beat for us to just kind of course correct that stuff before it's too late. So we don't have to wait for the full 6 months for another expansion or maybe longer. So we get that adjustment period, but it also gives us time to look at like how things landed from the expansion before or the major update before. And it lets us be a little bit more meaningful with things like updates to ship meta balances as well, and just say like, hey, like where are dreads? Are they overperforming for their price now? Do we need to do something about that? Maybe. And there's always a laundry list of asks from the CSM, which is wonderful that we can help kind of fill this out with. And in addition to sort of like ship balance and economy, industry pricing, we really also want to take a look at content. So we have new content that typically comes out with major updates or rebalancing or adjustments to other older content that might not feel quite good for either just old technology reasons, like maybe AI is bad or it's not paying out for the risk or something like that. So that's what we usually tend to try to land on our major updates is that kind of stuff.
Right on. Yeah, and it kind of lets us tackle things without having to worry. This is something that you guys talk about quite a bit, without having to have a silver bullet
Yep.
to like absolutely fix everything. We know there's no single patch or single thing that we can do to fix some of the larger problems, the more complicated problems. CCP Rattati, you were talking about how these systems are so interconnected. So when we talk about force projection, we can do it kind of iteratively right through these major updates and expansions and stuff in bursts that don't feel super, super far away, but it lets us see how things land.
Yeah, and also another good thing about these major updates is that sometimes in expansions things get lost in the noise, and there are certain changes we wanna make, and they don't really make sense in the grand scheme of an expansion. So we get with the major updates, we can basically kind of add more spotlight to things that are kind of more niche or only serve a smaller portion of the game, and it kind of just frees us up in doing stuff like that.
Nice. So we're gonna have a new major expansion soon, or a major,
Major
update,
update,
soon.
yeah.
Yeah.
Major update.
Yep.
Yeah, coming very soon
Yes.
to a
But
client near you.
isn't it like,
March.
well, yeah, it's March, right?
Yeah.
No need to be coy about it. It's
That's smart.
so we're trying to build a cadence also of predictability. So we're trying to have February and August are the evolved months where we do technical improvements, graphical improvements to de-risk the expansion. It's always like if there's a performance problem or something with the new graphics, we have time to fix it. We don't want to introduce like crazy new risk on expansion day. Then the major update in the month after, and then the expansion. So like that's whether it goes between months, May, June, like that's always just a bit dependent on calendar days and Easter and all kinds of things. But like that's the cadence. And major update is coming up. We went through it with the CSM again. A lot of cool stuff in the major update. Loads of, I would say, out of left field stuff that like is gonna like it's not just like +1 PG -3 CPU on a couple of ships. There's something cooler stuff coming up.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say some wormhole updates and content coming out as well for our wormholers.
I know there's a sea of
Wormholes.
wormholers right now that
Yeah.
got like very excited, but also very anxious at the same time.
Yeah.
They're probably not sure why, but
Yeah.
they have like
Yeah.
this weird feeling now.
Yeah, sadly we don't have Twitch chat in front of us, so I can only imagine the wormhole emojis that are flying through right now.
Generally, I think everything we've been doing in the the smaller habitats of Pochven and we've been doing iterative quality, like undeniable quality of life improvements, and kind of checking in on the risk reward balance. And I think we've probably been more right than wrong, but we've also been very iterative on that, like payouts, like all kinds of little experimentations to actually make it like fair in that sense, and not just exploitable or whatever. So a lot of super cool experimentation that then pays off, because this then if it's a good design or a good paradigm, we can use it for other content as well, like a better behavior NPC or escalation logic or whatever. We can apply it elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's also been really helpful. And this is something that if we go back like 3 or 4 years, CCP Rattati, that you were really kind of pushing people to do a little bit more, is come together as a group and just like bring us some issues.
Yep.
So there's the Wormhole UN that I know Mick Fightmaster, a member of our CSM, helps curate some ideas from, and he meets with them regularly. And it's great to see like communities come forward, give us a list of issues that like are affecting them, things that they're worried about in their gameplay circles and things like that. So we've got a whole bunch of these groups to augment things like the CSM and just normal feedback channels to help us make these decisions and bring like more ammunition for the designers to kind of solve these problems.
Yeah, I'm in the wormhole one, and I think LowSec one as well. Really appreciate the way that the community comes together and how that's kind of formalized in like really digestible pieces of feedback. It's super helpful.
Yeah, the manifestos, as they were called.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Also, I think I said this actually in the intro yesterday to the CSMers, is that the conversations are also just better. Like there's more decorum generally in how EVE players and the CSM and everyone is working together. Less partisanship and more like, the greater good conversations. For sure, there's always like pros and cons, but I feel much more confident to take on like a manifesto and kind of like implement it, or like have a designer go through it and kind of trust it more than distrust it. Like the lever or the dial is turned over to like we trust these things a lot. We don't feel like we're being manipulated or like kind of controlled. It's just like, yeah, these are pretty much all good ideas. Like there's no reason, there's no hubris or kind of like ownership that CCP must develop these internally. Like we're being dictated by the community. Like it's a collaboration more, and it's just like it just keeps getting better, it feels.
Yeah, I think to that extent, something that I'm really proud of over the past year is just how strong our sort of relationship, both as developers and community, has become. And I just see the sort of like growth of the really powerful conversations that we're having around how we develop EVE and the approach we're taking, and just how we can process feedback and be transparent about how and why we're doing things. And I think that, it's really kind of setting the ground level for this next era of our development.
Yeah, and it's I mean, just to echo what you guys have said, like the relationship between CCP and the CSM is in a really great state right now. It's not always been that way. Like there have been like periods of very low trust, and building trust is something that takes a very long time, and it's not something you kind of create overnight, but you can break that trust really quickly and very easily. And I feel like we're all very cognizant of that today, and there is a lot of transparency. There's a lot of very healthy debate, but at the end of the day, I feel like the game definitely benefits a lot from these conversations, and we're seeing a lot of great uplift because of the success of this relationship.
No, like almost all of these quality of life improvements in the habitats are just coming straight from the and we wouldn't be able to do it this rapidly. We didn't trust the manifestos,
Yeah.
because then we'd have to do our own research and validate all of the assumptions.
Yeah. And we'd constantly be questioning ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing. We get a lot of data. Obviously,
Yeah.
we get to see everything going on in the Eve universe, but like adding that context to the data to tell the whole picture and tell the whole story. I just
Yeah.
figuring out. I think this is something that you guys were talking about to the CSM. Is just like figuring out what are the problems that you're experiencing that you're trying to solve, and the players themselves are also really good at just like realizing that they can say, "Here's the problem I'm facing," rather than "Here's my solution to the
Mhm.
problem." And that's yielding such great results.
Mhm.
It's exciting to see all these little micro communities say, "Oh, I want us to get together to do something like this, so we can get this
Mhm.
cool update."
Yes. Um, on that, we've talked about the plight of the new player a little bit, and we're always cognizant of the new player,
Yep.
which is usually was an underrepresented at the CSM community, which is much better now with our CCP kind of invites when there's a lacking representative. But we have a strong representation this year for new players, and it's something that we are always thinking about. We have been kind of helping the social onboarding with corporation tools and freelance goals and all that, and improving mining, one of the first things that people do. But we are we need to do better. We need to save more new players
Yep.
from just leaving too early. They simply leave too early, and we're trying to figure out why. So that's a big challenge for us to figure that out. And it's the only way for Eve to grow.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is actually now that we feel that that Eve is in a very healthy place. We want to move part of our focus back to new players, and we want to make sure that we help them kind of realize the awesomeness that the game is. And I think we talked about this at FanFest a few years ago. Like, we were incredibly good at killing new players, like incredibly good at it, and we have to be a bit better in like holding them and
Nurturing them.
a bit. And I mean, there are a lot of issues early on. Like, there's like first impression issues. There's a lot of stuff you need to learn very quickly. There's a lot of like foreign stuff. What the hell is a capacitor? Oh, it's kind of a battery. Okay, I kind of get that. And there's also just a lot of scary things, like breaking the ice in communicating with people, and kind of it's daunting, it's scary, and this is stuff that we want to dive into a bit more in 2026, and kind of fulfill the fantasy that we've had for a very long time, to kind of how do we get new players into factional warfare? How do we get them to like participate in war, participate in kind of the trailers that that they see before they join the game, and that's something that we've been playing with now, and are excited to share more on FanFest.
It is funny how like art imitates life in a sense where Eve players love new players that come in. They recognize that these new players are going to be instrumental to the future of everything. Recently, as one of our CSM was on the way to Iceland for the CSM summit, Kashal Aderon, her corp was robbed by like a rogue director who stole like 100 billion ISK worth of the free handouts that they give out. And the community reaction to that was just like, man, that guy's a jerk. Like, usually when someone does a heist, they're like, oh, that guy's so cool. But this one, they're like, screw that guy. And they all just like overwhelmingly donated just a ton of stuff to Eve rookies. And Kashal, when we were talking to her, like as she arrived, she was like, we're already made whole. Like within like 12 hours, the community just overwhelmingly was like, yeah, you do stuff with new players. So it's cool to see that. And Okami, you were talking about this, like touching on some fundamental Eve systems in a long scale, or in the long term, and also kind of build into helping newer players get settled easier, feeling that they're not playing a 22-year-old game all the time, but they're playing a game with like legacy and history and gravity.
Exactly. I think what's really important, like, we have a living game, and it's been around for 23 years now, and we want it to keep going on. So we have to realize and recognize that there are new generations of people who are onboarding into this game, and their sort of lived reality in the context of them coming into Eve is different than when we did.
Mm.
Like gaming was different when
Mhm.
you started playing Eve. When you started playing Eve, it the expectations that you had at that time, the attention that you had at that time were very different. And so a lot of now when I think about design for Eve Online, it's about how do we design for the modern like context while sort of preserving the heart and core and soul of what's there. And I think like a glimpse of that is what the work we did with the mining
Yep.
UX and the mining experience, where we just said, hey, this thing is super old. Like it's not fun. Let's be real. Like the way mining worked, people were just used to it. That's how it worked, but it wasn't great. And it didn't feel super sci-fi. And you didn't get the information that you needed or might have expected coming into a game that's this crazy sci-fi game. And so we just said, let's push that bar up and even like 10%. And I think we're seeing how people react to and feel when we kind of tend to the game in that way. And so a lot of what we'll do with newer players especially is thinking about how like what do they expect when they come in, and how do we just like make them feel cool here? How do we make them like see what a cool game this is and just like understand some of this stuff? There's a lot of knowledge-based mastery in Eve, but we want to look at where we want to do that meaningfully, and then like the other stuff that are just like hard things that people just had to learn. Can we just soften that a little bit just to make it more approachable so people can get into the cool part of the game where they actually need to put that effort in?
Yeah, and striking that balance between like, oh, you still need to like master a concept. It's not all given to you.
Yeah.
But it's not just like beating you over the head before you can even get involved
Right.
in something like that.
Exactly.
Space for trial and error,
Yeah.
like a little bit of like just confidence we've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be easy to grasp, hard to master. Like that's kind of the aim.
Right on. So we talked a little bit about the major update stuff. We teased a little bit about stuff that's coming in the major update. It'll be
Yeah.
really exciting. And we'll talk to people more about it as we get a little bit closer. And we know all the cool exact things that we're going to put in there. But what about like the next expansions and FanFest, and what can players kind of look forward to? Don't spoil everything. We got to keep them like still interested. We got other dev chats to have.
Yeah.
But like what can people like look forward to for FanFest and just the rest of 2026?
Well, FanFest is always crazy, so it's just always amazing. So you can always look forward to that. But we are putting more focus on new players, and we're also putting more focus on war in general, and war being kind of the purpose. What kind of drives purpose and really makes you want to dive into the game. So we've been looking at ways how to kind of expand faction warfare. Are there opportunities to kind of allow the war to spill more into high sec? Is there a way to kind of create clear objectives of the war? We understand that faction warfare can kind of, capturing a plex, then capturing another plex, and then losing, and then it becomes a grind quite quickly right now, or kind of quite repetitive. So
For 23 years, whenever.
yeah, plus minus. So we've been looking at ways to kind of add more meaning and kind of more objectives to the war, and this is something that we've been calling military campaigns. That name might change.
No.
Nope.
No,
Okay.
no,
Love it.
no.
I think we're keeping it.
It's
Keeping
just
it-
Well,
very
we said
clear.
it now, so
Yeah.
we got to keep it.
We gotta keep it.
So it's for me, there's a promise of Eve is that you can it's different than other games. I came from Dauk and World of Warcraft, and you'd capture Terran Mill and then you'd lose it overnight and then you'd go back, and then Dauk never really you could never actually win and conquer and hold land, and that was the idea, and then they just gave up on it and had battlegrounds, and I feel like faction warfare is just kind of like battlegrounds. You just, if you don't know, it's just like
The
a
eternal tug of war.
eternal
Yeah.
PvE that really doesn't do anything. It just it's a guaranteed fight. It's guaranteed, and you'll get rewards and you get LP, and that's interesting. But this idea of a meaningful impact,
World-changing
actually
impact.
changing something, is that Eve can only do. There's no other game that really allows you to change the universe, Nyarja or whatever, a meaningful change happen. But we hide a lot of it through sovereignty, which is nullsec, which is far away, and then faction warfare, which is kind of there's a lot of hurdles from a new player to faction warfare, not just standings and all that. Just like it just takes weeks of gameplay to get the confidence to go somewhere in PvP. So impact from day one is something that is kind of like a goal for us. It's not going to happen overnight, but the idea is, can you be impactful on day one? Can you actually come in, do the MPE, and then immediately do something that maybe not, like maybe it's an alternative. You can do career agents, or maybe you can do X, and that's actually maybe contributing to something. And that's the dream, like because that's the evenness of the whole thing, is that it's different than other games.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it when we're in preparation for Uprising. We talked a lot about this idea of empires at war and then stitching the boots, and this idea of like war doesn't only happen on the front lines. It also happens like, you know, in the headquarter systems where you're making, you know, you're building the ship, you're you know, stacking up the ammunition and things like that. You're planning out the next, you know, your next attack, and we really want to kind of find ways to kind of push this idea forward, so you feel like you're contributing something to something greater right from the bat.
Yeah, and that, I mean, those analogies also play to the largest conflicts that happen in nullsec too. I remember meeting one player at FanFest who didn't get involved in any of the null wars or anything like that, but he made every single stiletto that players used in the war. Like, he cornered the market on stilettos to the point where no one ever wanted to make it. There were like other things that they could do. They were making units and stuff.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm going to be the stiletto guy. And he just has like the knowledge that every stiletto that was lost in that war, every scout that went out, every interceptor that tackled someone, he was like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I am the reason that fight happened in that way. And it's super cool that players can have that impact, right? Like, you can have that person who is the builder that still has a huge impact on this huge conflict 20 jumps away between 50,000 players that they might not know.
And we don't even show it to them because we don't have manufacturer on like the ship, because like just can't. But it loads of people don't understand or realize that when they go into the market, it's not an NPC market. Like, everything has been made by players. So like that's often like a conversion point or a retention point when they realize, no way, like everything in the market, hundreds of thousands of items, someone made them from scratch.
Yeah.
It's almost inconceivable.
I'm getting some horrible flashbacks here because this is very much how I first started the game as well. I had no idea that the items on the market were from other players. So there were 2 items that were identical on the market. It was actually a shuttle, but I was like, okay, this shuttle's 10,000 ISK, but this shuttle's 100,000 ISK. I'm gonna save up so much to get this shuttle that's 10 times better. And what actually happened is I just got scammed by some dude and overpaid for a shuttle, and it made me so mad that I like just stuck with the game just to prove that I wasn't a stupid guy that got fooled.
And
by
now you work
someone.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and above all of that, when we talk about campaigns, there's another part of Eve that I think doesn't get enough love and attention sometimes, which is our sort of like rich world building and lore. Like, it is so cool, but sometimes so opaque. So with campaigns, this becomes another sort of storytelling device for us, where we can really put sort of some of our central players in the universe and actors at the forefront of what's happening. Like, these empires, our 4 empires, have needs, they have desires, and they have goals, and we want to be able to have those manifest in ways that players can either like support with their action and vote on the outcomes through aiding the empires and their objectives, or other organizations potentially in the future as well. And so this will let new players who come in get a just easier glimpse of what's happening in New Eden and who's doing what. And like you guys were saying, I can do something, I can help, right? Like, I can whether I'm flying into factional warfare to help flip some systems or get a goal, kind of an objective completed for the side that I'm on. I could also just maybe manufacture some things or turn some things in, or support in other ways, or clean up some rats in a certain area, and see that I'm getting the feedback that I'm supporting my side, and that progress is leading towards a meaningful outcome or a meaningful potential change in the universe.
Yeah, and we basically we give people more agency and more kind of ability to set the risk that they're willing to take. Do they want to hang back and help out, in the back home in high sec, or do they want to go out on the front lines or dive into
Yep.
battlefields, day one?
So I guess it's safe to say that in 2026 we're going to be hearing from the empires, or at least players are going to be interacting with the empires a little bit more.
Yeah, they are major players in this universe, and we feel like they've kind of taken the backseat for a little while. We've had the Deathless and the Drifters recently, and it's time to kind of revitalize this war between the empires and their conflict. We'll be seeing a lot happen there.
Yeah, and kind of sharpen their story a bit. Like, we haven't really progressed the Empire story for a while.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of I think we can go a bit darker.
Nice. Eve is actually super dark compared to
Yeah,
almost
yeah, yeah.
everything out there. So that we're going to go a little bit darker is
There's a
scary
lot
but
of
exciting.
chronicles that are
Yeah.
more than PG-13, I think.
Yeah.
No, I love that because from that modern new player, you expect there's an NPC faction that I belong to when I start, whatever that is, and then I will eventually progress. But there's something that's happening. But this would be different, and aiding someone, I think, is just such a core experience. Just immediately, it's interesting. You're if you just donate that shuttle to the cause,
Yep.
you're that feels good. It's better than just selling it or trash looting it. It's just it feels better.
Yeah.
Because
One of the other very dumb things, this is just a whole flashback of all the dumb decisions I've made, is starting on, I was in the Center for Advanced Studies as my first character. I was I want to help the Center for Advanced Studies. They're cool. So there was an option, I don't know if we've removed it, but there's an option to donate your money to the NPC Corp. I was oh, that'll probably carry me favor or something. So I did, and nothing happened. My standings didn't change. No one cared. And I told people in the rookie help chat, they were just yeah, you just lost all that money. You can't get it back. And I was son of a bitch. So that was just another moment that made me want to stick
But
it.
it made you feel good.
Yeah,
when he did it.
for a little while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the moment.
But now that people are going to be able to do stuff like that and actually have an impact and actually get that feeling that I was seeking back then.
You could donate your ISK to Okami Corp.
Yeah. I hear that you can double it if I give it to you. Yeah.
Just in a couple weeks. So
Yeah.
But I think it's on faction warfare, because there is a reinforcement option in Plexus. You can put LP or something in it to strengthen it, right? So no one appreciates it, so you don't do it. But if it's meaningful, but the universe is full of little features like this that haven't been touched for years. So we're also going to use the opportunity when we go into faction warfare, to do the same iterative improvements of okay, this is a habitat like Pochven or wormholes. It's there are issues. There's risk and reward issues. There's too many these sites, too few of these sites. The NPCs are not smart enough, or they're too hard, whatever. So we'll use the opportunity to clean up a lot of this stuff. We'll take a look at AWOXing, take a look at some standings issues. We're not gonna solve we'll pretend to solve anything in this expansion. This is just meta and balance. We will iteratively raise the bar. No magic bullet. No simple answer. We'll just get the information that we need from the community and then say okay, what's your worst problem? Can we fix it in a simple manner? Or do we completely have to redesign the whole thing? We're not going to do that. We're going to do something. Same thing with force projection. We will trim the branches. We're not going to plant a new tree for any other stuff.
Yep.
We'll just fix
And
it.
actually, this time around, we're actually planning 3 expansions. So the teams are going into these topics not just for the next expansion, but they're very kind of strategically thinking about, okay, what can we fit here? What makes more sense as a winter expansion than what makes more sense as a summer 2027 expansion. So that also gives the teams more freedom to take on bigger, more complex projects. It gives them the freedom to take on okay, let's try a fix here, or let's do the quick thing, see if it works, and then iterate on it, or should we then or do we throw it out and work on something bigger down the line? So that's it's kind of continuation of on how we've been working, but we've been very focused on certain elements of the space of the game, and now we're kind of diving into these topics, and
I think
it's very exciting.
we have the confidence because of the state of the game to think longer and further into the future, because the house was a bit on fire, and now we put out the fire, and now we can start picking out curtains and actually having fun and like building the game that we want it to be. So that's also just a huge relief, is to not have like anxiety at every expansion of like, okay, like I knew this would happen because of this thing and this thing, something lurking in the shadows. So I've the confidence to plan 3 expansions has it's been a very long time since that happened.
Yep.
If ever, if I'm honest.
And there are so many things we're not telling you right now, and it's so exciting, and
Yeah.
I'm so pumped for FanFest, and we're gonna go into like incredible detail there. And yeah, it's like, yeah, we're like poking each other, like, don't say it. 'Cause, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and it's really cool after building like foundational stuff, building on top of those foundations and having as you were saying, having the confidence to know that like it's not going to fall down. It's not going to go into a sinkhole. The kitchen sink's not going to fall out from under us. So
Very
it's
satisfying.
just it's neat to see. And what's even more exciting is just what players do with all the stuff. Just because no matter what we design, we know they're going to use it in some weird way, but it's still going to be a very fun way and a very emergent way. Probably the best way to call it is emergent, not weird, or play
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
emergent. Some of you, but yeah.
Yeah, and even if we're saying that we're putting more focus on newer players, like everyone will benefit in many ways. Like, you know, looking at the mining interactions in the last expansion in Catalyst, ultimately that benefits everyone. So we're not going to go and kind of rewire the NP. That's not our plan at all.
Yeah.
It's more kind of how do we ease access into these awesome systems, not dumb them down, but make it easier to grasp, and you know, and then it can be as hard as you want to master. So ultimately it will result in a better game, more players, more fun.
And campaigns, well, they kind of add some structure, and you know, if you're a new player, you log in and go like, what's a meaningful thing I can do today? And it should be an easy answer to that. It's for everybody, really.
Yep.
Like, this is something that will touch the entire universe. It will have real stakes, and like every campaign should have meaningful, lasting change in the universe. So everyone should want to participate on some level. So it's big. It's big. There's a lot there, and we are, like you said, focused on newer players. We're really thinking about how Eve it can, you know, graduate in complexity, right? Where the MPE is low complexity, like it's very on rails, and then you're just kind of dropped into the water there. So like, how do we sort of like smooth that out a little bit, that transition, and then get you participating in campaigns, and then get you participating in our structured PvP, factional warfare, and eventually released into the open wilds to do whatever you want.
So campaigns also give you a really interesting motivation. Competition is a huge driver in this, and there's no real competition in faction warfare. But if you have a winnable goal, you have competitive people. Not everyone's competitive, but you have competitive people in faction warfare militias and places. And just by saying you can win or lose, they will be desperate not to lose and to win. And that gives like a firebrand leader like so much firepower and motivation to pull other people in to just, we're going to win this. Like, guys, we're going to win this. People, players, our team members. It's not like, it's much easier to get someone, hey, do you want to run forever? Or do you want to compete in this sprint?
Yeah.
It's just like motivationally, it's just like much easier to like, hey, new players, we're going to go and we're going to win this war, and it's here, rather than like, hey, join this never-ending war. Like it just like isn't the same appeal.
I always find like in Eve, there's this idea of like, yes, of course, there's this idea of winning and losing, but there's also this idea of preventing others from winning. It's like the joy of inflicting damage on others is kind of a thing in Eve, where you're like, well, I'm not gonna win, but I'm just gonna make sure that you won't.
Yeah,
You
that
will
is
never win.
that is one of the main motivations that I had when I was playing Eve, like for like a huge portion of it. When I was telling people this that aren't Eve players, they look at me like, "Whoa, that guy might be a psychopath."
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
don't know. But Eve players, yeah, as you were saying, CC Burger, they get it. They're like, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost even more rewarding to say like you don't get that thing,
Yeah.
rather than like we collectively can get this thing together.
And I mean, ultimate is like we got our objective and we made sure that you did not get yours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's Killboard's green all around.
Yeah. Keyboard screen.
But like we talk about a lot, like new players and stuff like this, and that's gonna be the focus. But there are things still that like veteran players can look forward to. I know you guys were teasing this a little bit with the Catalyst expansion. We've made a few changes to carriers, and we've seen that now, like reduction in cost, the fighter support, like the fighter tubes being a little bit beefier. We're seeing a lot more carriers in space doing stuff.
Yep.
Is that over? Are you gonna keep going? You're gonna what's the idea with carriers?
Yeah, more carriers. I think, without spoiling too much, we have more to talk about here. Really happy with how the changes are going so far. Both anecdotally and through data, we're seeing just usage go up. More carriers participating in battles. But we definitely have some top tier upgrades that we're saving for maybe FanFest to talk
Yeah,
about.
Nice.
And I mean, there were like a couple of. We didn't expect carriers to become this popular, so like our graphical additions maybe became. Yeah, there were more of them on
victim
the
of their own
field.
success.
Yeah,
Is
they were
that
kind of
the-
victim of their own success in a way. So we're looking at those issues and fixing them. But
Yeah, so if you're flying a carrier and you're like running into performance things, definitely on our radar. Definitely things the teams
Yeah.
are looking into. A couple of changes have already gone in, a couple more in February, I think, as well. But yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out for it. And yeah, it's one of those things where like, oh, we didn't know when there are so many carriers on grid, like, oh shit, it's actually causing like these problems that didn't necessarily get to see in testing and things like that.
I think it's the same thing with the ecosystem of balance. Like if there's a healthy meta, it's way easier to fix one thing at a time rather than try to like stir the whole pot. And now the meta is pretty good. And a couple of years ago, we decided, okay, we just need to fix dreads. Like we anchor battleships, as in like there was this whole progression of like we moved battleship to this kind of conversion ship of like that needs a reaction. Like there's a fundamental difference between like they're the path to capitals. So it's battleships, get them into good place, find the right price point. People talked about 240 mil or whatever. Like figure that out, anchor battleships at the center of the universe. Then the next progression, dreadnoughts, aim and shoot, powerful, power fantasy. Everyone can fly them. Everyone can use them, whether it's assault or at the home front in Null and in Dread Brawls. So iteratively figuring out the rock, paper, scissors of the universe is much better than trying to move all of them at the same time. And now carriers are going to get the same treatment. We're going to figure out the cost and the power and the risk and reward thing, and then whether they need faxes to be optimal or not. Like this is all a whole thing, but we anchor it on battleship, dreadnought, carrier, and then we'll pick the next ship to kind of fix and fit into the mix.
Yeah, watching how the escalation paths unfold is really exciting, and it's so much fun to see how players' minds try to solve these problems. Like, if battleships are popular, maybe I'll take carriers to do this. Some people are like conduiting their carriers really well. Some people are still using it to kind of like siege fortizars and structures, but just unlocking that creativity and that like spark from the theory crafters is really neat.
And killing the little issues or like skynetting and figuring those things out at the same time, even if we knew, okay, we're taking the only thing that they're kind of good at, but it's a bad thing to be good at. So like, let's just rip that Band-Aid off.
To find a new good thing.
Yeah, let's find a new good thing.
Right on. And then I guess the other thing that players can hopefully still look forward to, are there still going to be like events and stuff? Like Is that still going to be? Will there still
I
be
think,
things like
yeah,
Capsuleer Day?
players have a crazy year to look forward to. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy
absolutely.
wild.
We talk about the empires bringing them to the forefront and the war between them. I'm not going to spoil much right now, but that is absolutely coming to the forefront of both the story we're telling narratively and the flavor of events to come. So, Capsuleer's Day on the horizon. There's going to be some special changes in that you'll see, and a whole host of things leading up to the expansion release
Yeah.
later.
I think there's a natural kind of we never branded it as such, but kind of the Deathless Saga is kind of it coming to an end, like rise in power, introduction of new technologies, Zarzak, all of that. And like now this stuff is evergreen. I think we're entering a new, basically multi-year saga maybe in the empires, intrigue, politics,
Yep.
all that kind of juicy stuff.
And it'll be bold. I'm sure
Yes.
it'll be controversial, and people will be
Yes.
talking about it. It's going to be fun. Like
Yeah.
we want to shake it up a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gonna have some new faces on the scene, actual faces that people will start to recognize, and so definitely learning a lot from the sagas that we've been telling over the last few years and applying it to the
Yeah.
empires.
Neat.
One event that like was aside from the really cool events like Drifter Crisis and all that, and the latest events, we just reviewed the roadmap for the events, which was we've been using events to be very experimentational also, like to bring in brand new content, or because we take it offline. We can afford to make mistakes in events and like maybe like balance them a bit wrong or something, but it's a really good grounds for experimentation. So I've seen a lot like the labyrinth, like new like kind of game modes are almost in these events. There's a lot of exciting new puzzles, but one of the events that we also ran was Nemesis, the Vanguard crossover event that we ran. It really is the third or fourth even event where we hold like a Vanguard is live. It impacts Eve in some way because we're also experimenting on how does Vanguard in the future connect to Eve Online. It's social, is it a direct advantage in front lines, and now this convoy concept of wouldn't be fun if Vanguard generate content on the other side. We will do something like that also after the expansion.
Yep.
I hope like I'm confident saying that. And just be bolder, grow that stuff, build on the foundation, but like take it to the next level as well. So there's a lot of narrative connection there. Deathless introduced these new workloads that are in Vanguard, so it's kind of like also a little bit part of that. But I can't wait to actually see that too. But a lot more information on that at FanFest as well.
Right on. And actually, we can chat with a little bit more about Vanguard to see what players can kind of get up to with Vanguard in 2026. CCP Convict sat down with CCP Collins to chat all about that. So let's hear from them.
Hi, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying the director's chat so far, but a rare alignment happened this week, which is the week before the stream you're watching right now, where we saw someone haunting the aisles at CCP Reykjavik, and that person would be CCP Collins, the game director for Eve Vanguard. And the people have been able to watch the interview so far with CCP Okami, CCP Burger, and CCP Rattati, but we thought, since we had you, let's snatch you and bring you into the studio.
I flew all the way here, hoping that you'd find me accidentally
That's
in the
right.
halls.
Yeah, we just saw you and went, yoink, to talk about Eve Vanguard a little bit during this director's chat. So we don't want to leave that out because it's been a few months now since Operation Nemesis, I think.
Yeah, November. Yeah.
November, which was the last time players had really gotten their hands on with the game, and wanted to ask you, like, how did Operation Nemesis go from your perspective in the London studio? And what have you been sort of like, I know we've had Christmas and some people have hopefully had a well-earned break, but what have you been cooking in the interim since Operation Nemesis wrapped up?
Yeah, Operation Nemesis was massive for us in the sense it was our most comprehensive test that we'd ran in pre-alpha to date, right? The amount of features that we had in it, the stories that we were trying to tell, the type of experience that we were trying to create for new people who hadn't come in and played Vanguard before as well. all in the sense of just building up huge beds of data and feedback that we can kind of take forwards into improving the game and seeing where we need to focus in more on and where we need to focus less. So for us, it was extremely successful in that all that feedback and that the data that we got back was incredibly useful for us to realize what's working and what's not working. This is why we run these tests, right? We know this isn't perfect. It's a collection of ideas. We're in pre-alpha. There's a lot of prototypes in there. There's a lot of kind of placeholder things, and seeing what people respond well to and what people don't respond well to, how much it can keep people engaged in the experience and how long we can keep people playing the game and engaged for was like a huge reason why we ran Operation Nemesis, and kind of introducing people to some of the themes and the storylines that we want to start telling as well is the Vanguard start building up a stronger presence in New Eden. So getting all of that feedback and data back was absolutely incredible. It's the most amount of feedback that we've ever received in a test, and putting the data alongside that, because sometimes people tell you what they don't like, but sometimes you need to see it. You need to see it in the data. What people say they don't like and how they play the game are two very different things sometimes.
We see that all the time in like EVE Online as well. Players will be telling us one thing about a feature or something, and then when you look at the data, it's not necessarily congruent. It's not necessarily that the players are being dishonest about it. It's just that sometimes you get a little bit of tunnel vision. You get focused on a certain gripe or a certain feature, and you sort of forget about how that applies more broadly to the game.
Exactly, and it works both ways. Like we can't just look at the data as well. We need to, what we say, the qualitative and the quantitative data that we get on is really important part of the experience. So we did a lot after Operation Nemesis of reviewing that, doing a lot of analysis on the data to see how people were playing, how people were sticking around, what was kind of the common threads that were leading to people enjoying and playing the game for long periods of time, what were the common threads that were leaving people to kind of leave early, and what were some of the complaints that we're doing. We looked at a lot of our own individual, our inside community that we have on Discord, our VIPs. We looked at a lot of streamers and influencers that were playing the game, and a lot of feedback that we got from new people that had never played the game before and are even new to the universe, which is fantastic. And I think if we think about what we've been doing since then, is getting a lot of that feedback and kind of analyzing what we need to be doing next. A lot of the feedback was telling us that certain parts of the core experience are just not quite there yet. That real center of the running and gunning, having a gun in your hand and feeling that fantasy of being a war clone in this universe. We're still working towards that, but we haven't quite punched through getting that feeling and getting that fantasy and getting that kind of what it should feel like to be in this universe, this kind of on the knife edge of all-out war, and making that gun feel responsive and the enemies that you're shooting at feel human and like opportunistic. There's still a lot of work that we need to do there. There's a lot in the experience that started to really positively shine through, like the addition of expeditions and sending people on these kind of more structured missions in the worlds and different environments that they can go down to was all being positively received. So we're just now focusing on the next steps as we start thinking about a really important step of what coming out of pre-alpha looks like, and taking the next bold steps into making an alpha version of Vanguard.
I think a lot of people have probably, because the development of Vanguard has been so sort of like open, and we've involved players from a very early stage, I'm sure a lot of people have gotten a taste of what the actual process of game development looks like. Because I remember before I was involved in the industry, I think of alpha as kind of like the white box scratch build starting point, but that's actually quite far along the development process. There's so much that has to happen before that, and Vanguard has been working through that pre-alpha phase now for a couple of years.
People forget how early on we still are with Vanguard. Pre-alpha, in modern day, that would never see the light of day. You would never be playing a pre-alpha in a public playtest. You'd maybe be seeing a late stage alpha as a game moves into beta. So I think sometimes people forget how early we still are in this journey. So I think we have been in pre-alpha now since we announced, what was it, FanFest 2023, I want to say. So we think it is time now. We've got all the necessary data. We've had some really great experiments in pre-alpha and types of features and experiences that we want to have in the game. But we are ready now to take that next step. And the team have started pre-production on working towards what an alpha version of Vanguard looks like.
That's cool. A question that sort of comes up from time to time, is there anything you can tell us about how the connection between EVE Online and EVE Vanguard is shaping up? Like, how will those two universes influence each other from a gameplay perspective?
I'd like that. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be
We're adding a Game Boy into Vanguard.
Sick.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too many details right now because there's still a lot that we need to figure out. We've done a lot of experiments over pre-alpha into things that feel a bit more economic, that feel, when we added the Insurgency PvP mode into the game, that was having an impact on Insurgency. The whole sense that as a Vanguard and the battles that you're going through are contributing to the warfare that exists in the universe. That's the angle that we feel is the coolest, and it fills into the fantasy. I'm an operative war clone.
Yeah.
Feeding into the warfare that's happening in the universe is the angle that we want to go down. And we're going to be announcing more details about that connection across 2 games. We're, working very closely with CCP Okami and the like. And we're hoping, we're aiming for it FanFest this year to talk a lot more about that connection. That will be part of the experience as we work towards an early access in 2027.
Yeah, I was talking to CCP Monty before about some of the plans we've got for FanFest, and it sounds like it's going to be a really, really cool event this year. I can't wait to hear more about that Vanguard Eve connection then.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I had to ask for you to ask was, when will players be able to get their hands on Eve Vanguard next?
Yeah, so as we work towards early access, we are taking that next steps of taking Vanguard into alpha. What we want people to play next is that core alpha experience. It's not something that feels a bit more release ready, a lot more polished version versus what people have been playing in pre-alpha, which is kind of a lot of prototypes and ideas. We want to create something that feels more solid and is a more polished representation of the game that we want to make. So we will be announcing a date at FanFest, but we're aiming for summer this year. We'll be running a Steam playtest, which will be the first playtest of Vanguard as an alpha.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about it. We'll get back to the other directors for the rest of the sort of EVA flavored directors chat, but it's been great to catch up with you and hear about what's happening with Vanguard. So I'll hand it back over to CCP Swift and those other guys, and you'll be hearing more from this guy at FanFest in a couple of months.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, thanks, CCP Convict and CCP Collins. That was great. Guys, it's been wonderful to chat about the plans for 2026. A little bit of look back at 2025 to remember all the cool stuff that players did. But CCP Okami, CCP Burger, CCP Rattati, really appreciate hanging out. Any last words before we... last word sounds so daunting.
Yeah, wow.
Any final words for our chat right here before we go off?
No, this is the best part where we get to talk about the exciting stuff. So thanks for making the space. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see everyone at FanFest and or out in space. So until then, pew, 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 pew.
I think 26 is going to be the best year ever. Like, literally.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
It's a great way to
Hell
stop
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. Well, thanks for everyone. Thanks for watching, everyone. Really appreciate it. And look forward to staying in touch, chatting with you in Discord, in space, on the forums, on Reddit, wherever you are. And stay safe, fly safe, and we'll see you out there.